Hello friends, welcome back to this online lecture series on earthquake resistant design of structures. In the previous lecture, we have started the discussion on the behavior of reinforced concrete structures, that is basically the frame structure under the effect of lateral loads. And in the previous lecture, we have discussed the key components of the RCC building, and at the same time we have also discussed the role of each of these components in smooth transfer of lateral load from the floor level to the foundation. And lastly, we discussed the concept of strength hierarchy, that is the strong column, weak beam theory. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to discuss one very important feature that is required for the good performance of reinforced concrete buildings or frame structures under the effect of lateral load, and that particular feature is known as ductility. So, in today's lecture, we will be discussing regarding the concept of ductility, that is what is basically ductility, what is the need of ductility, and what are the different codal provisions that are suggested by the Indian standards in order to ensure that a structure behaves in a ductile manner when subjected to lateral load. So let us start today's discussion. Right. So first of all, we start with the definition of ductility, because for any new term that we want to discuss, it is important for us to first understand the terminology itself, right? So when you talk about ductility, then two definitions I have explained here. In the first part, I am discussing the general definition of the term ductility, and in the second part, I am going to discuss the specific performance of the structure when we talk about the ductility. So when I talk about the material itself, then ductility is basically the property of the material to undergo visible enduring deformation through elongation. That is, what is going to happen is that visible enduring deformation means the signs of deformation will be visible to you. Now these signs may be in the form of vertical deflection, it may be in terms of horizontal displacement, or it may be in terms of cracks also, and sometimes it can be in terms of reduction in the cross sectional area also, right? So what is basically going to happen is that ductility can be defined as the ability of the material to undergo plastic deformation without collapsing, right? So this is the basic definition in terms of material. But when you talk about this particular definition or this particular feature in terms of buildings, then I can say that ductility is the ability of the structure to undergo large lateral deformation without falling or without collapse, right? So whenever the ground motion is going to be there, and these ground motions are going to generate the seismic waves, these seismic waves will travel to the surface of the earth, and then the earthquake forces will be generated in the building. When these earthquake forces will be generated, due to this generation of these earthquake forces, the building will undergo earthquake shaking. So basically, the ductility is going to be a property which will help us designate the performance of reinforced concrete buildings or frame buildings or frame structures under the effect of lateral loads, and we will be able to understand the behavior and the shaking capacity of these buildings when they will be subjected to lateral loads. In order to understand the example of ductility, I have taken two examples. We can take two examples. The first example is that of a mild steel bar. So mild steel bar is going to undergo large amount of deformation before collapsing. It will show cracks on the surface also when the yield point will be crossed, right? So when the cracks will be visible on the surface, then we'll be able to understand that the material has passed this yielding limit, and further elongation is going to take place, and after a certain point of time, the failure of the material is going to be initiated. Same thing, second example that I have shown over here in the figure is that of a steel cable. So in case of steel cable also, we all are well aware that what is going to happen is that due to the property of the material itself, it can undergo large amount of twisting, large amount of stretching, and large amount of deformation. There will be occasionally change in the cross sectional area also, but the deformation, or you can say the ultimate collapse of the building, is going to take a lot of time, right? Before the ultimate collapse is going to happen, the cracks will be visible. That will give us an understanding about the life of the material, and based on these visible cracks and visible signs that you are going to see, you will be able to understand the performance of the material itself, right? So that is how ductility basically is. It is the ability of the structure to undergo large lateral deformations when subjected to lateral loads without collapsing, right? So now the next question comes is, why ductility is required in case of structures? So when you talk about ductility, or when you talk about structures in general, then there are basically two terms that are associated. The first term is stiffness, and the second term is ductility. So if I want to define stiffness, then I can say that the amount of force that is required to initiate the lateral displacement of a building is known as stiffness. For example, there are two types of building. First building is known as, let us say I am naming the first building as type A building, and second building I am naming as type B building, right? So if I am going to require greater amount of force for movement of initiating the movement of type A building as compared to that of type B building, then I can say that the type A building is going to be stiffer as compared to that of the type B building. Now there is no harm in having good stiffness, because good amount of stiffness is also going to be advantageous in case of earthquake. When you talk about the lateral forces, then stiffness is also going to be an important parameter. But if everything is so good, then also it is going to be sometimes harmful to us. So what is going to happen is that when the structure will be too stiff, then as a result of that, the deformation capacity of the structure is going to be greatly reduced, right? So as a result of that, whenever even a small amount of lateral movement will take place, then as a result of that, the collapse of the structure will be initiated. Whereas in case of ductility, what is going to happen is that the ductility will give us enough time to understand that the structure is going to undergo deformation, and that deformation will be for a substantial amount of time, and after that the collapse of the structure will be initiated. So this is the basic difference between stiffness and ductility. So in order to understand the effect of stiffness, I have taken one example over here, that of an unreinforced masonry building that you can see. This snapshot that you are seeing over here is taken from the Nepal earthquake that occurred in 2015, where an unreinforced masonry building is shown, where see unreinforced masonry building is shown, which is in tatters. Right now, what is happened over here is that since the building is an unreinforced masonry building and there is no ductility at all in the building is too stiff, because masonry buildings are too stiff, right? So due to this higher amount of stiffness in the building, it is likely to undergo very little amount of displacement. And when the ground shaking took place, then as a result of that, small amount of lateral deflection or lateral displacement started in the building, and due to this small amount of lateral displacement also, the building could not withstand its place and it collapsed before the ground shaking could stop, right? So whenever the ductility is going to be there, then ductility is going to enhance the capacity of the structure to absorb the energy that is released during the earthquake generation, and as a result of that, the structure will be able to withstand for a larger amount of time, and that will help us to reduce the damage due to the damage to the property and loss of life. And that is why ductility plays a very important role in order to ensuring that we have a safer world. Right now, other aspect, if we look at the ductility, then we have seen that the Indian Standard Code IS 1893 is working on a specific design philosophy, and that is that under no circumstances the structure should collapse, right? That is what we are going to discuss ahead also, that is minor earthquake, moderate earthquake and the strong earthquake. So in all these three cases, the collapse is not permitted by the Indian standard. So this type of collapse, if this type of behavior you want to ensure, then that type of behavior can be accounted only if your structure is ductile in nature. Why? Because it is going to undergo large plastic deformation without collapse, right? And that particular phenomena is going to be aligned with the design philosophy that is suggested by IS 1893. That is why this is also one of the reasons that ductile detailing of the structure is very, very necessary. Then the other thing is that the structures are likely to undergo different types of changes during its life cycle. For example, change of occupancy, accidental load, overloading, settlement of structure, right? Settlement of foundation. These all types of events are also likely to take place during the life cycle of the structure. Now, we do not take into account these type of events in the analysis process. So as a result of that, if the structure is going to be ductile in nature, then these all forces or these all types of events that are going to take place and little movements that are going to take place in the structure are going to be accumulated within this range of the ductile detailing that we have done. So this is the third reason why ductile detailing is going to be a necessary thing for the good performance of RCC buildings when subjected to lateral loads. And last thing is that the limit state, if you talk about, because in the case of reinforced concrete structure, we always design our buildings as per the limit state method. So in case of limit state method, the assumption is that all the critical sections of the building will reach their maximum capacities. This, what is going to happen is that the basic assumption that we have in case of limit state method is that all the critical elements of the building are going to reach their maximum capacities under the effect of design load. Now, if we want this assumption to come true, then what is going to happen is that the bars that are reinforcing bars that we are going to use should have that capacity to withstand the forces that they will be subjected to, and at the same time they should be able to withhold the deformation of the structure until and unless the yielding of the bar takes place, right? So this type of behavior can also be possible only if the ductile detailing of the structure is ensured in the building. So these are four primary reasons based on which we can say that ductile detailing is a very important part in order to ensure good performance of the reinforced concrete buildings when subjected to lateral loads, right? So here you can see the graph of ductile versus brittle material is shown. Now as we have seen that brittle material, the basic property of brittle material is that it is not going to give us any sign convention before failing. The failure will be catastrophic in nature, right? So there will be no sign, there will be no time for us to manage anything. So that is why it is going to be very harmful to the nature. Whereas in case of ductile, what is going to happen is that it is going to reach up to a yield point, and from the yield point onwards, it is going to show us signs. That is, it is either going to deflection, it will either show cracks on the surface, based on which we will be able to understand that the loading capacity of this particular member is near and we need to do something, right? And if we take the example of the brittle material in case of reinforced concrete buildings, then we can say that concrete is a brittle material, right? Because it is strong in compression and weak in tension. However, if we talk about the other component that is there in case of RCC buildings, that is the reinforcing bars. So in order to enhance the performance of the building, in order to enhance the ductility in the building, or in order to incorporate the feature of ductility in the building, the reinforcing bar is the only option that we have through which we can incorporate or we can include the ductility in the structure, right? And once this ductile detailing of the structure is done by means of ductile detailing of the reinforcing bars as indicated in the codal provisions, then the inelastic deformation that occurs in the concrete structures can be eliminated, and once the inelastic deformation will be eliminated, then the performance of the structure will be better. As you can see in the graph here, it is the strain versus stress graph, right? So the dotted line is showing the graph of the brittle material and the full line is showing the graph of the ductile material. So as you can see that as the load is going to increase, the strain is going to also increase, and after a certain limit, what is going to happen is that in case of ductile material, it will reach the yield point, and immediately after reaching the yield point, the curve goes on the downward side. As a result of that, it can say that it is no longer capable of taking extra load, and from there on, the collapse of the material will be initiated. Whereas same thing if you compare in the case of ductile material, then in case of ductile material, we can say that what is happening is that first the yield point is reached. From there on, considerable amount of elongation is taking place, and from there on further, the elongation is taking place, and thereafter the curve is going on the downward side. So as a result of that, you can see that the amount of extra time that you will get in case of ductile detailing or a material which is ductile in nature is far more better as compared to that of a brittle material, and that is how the performance of the building is going to be enhanced if ductile detailing of the structure is adopted. And this ductile detailing can be incorporated in the building through proper detailing that is done for the reinforcing bars, right? Now the question comes to mind, we have understood the concept of detailing, we have understood the necessity of detailing, we have done the comparison of brittle material versus ductile material, but the question that comes to mind is, if I want to increase the ductility in my structure, how do I increase the ductility in the structure? So basically what is going to happen is that when you increase the ductility, the ability to absorb the earthquake forces is going to increase, and as a result of that, the toughness of the structure is going to increase, and as a result of that, large lateral deformation will be possible without going failure. So there are three criteria or three options based on which you can increase the ductility in the structure. First is the increase in the compression steel ratio, that is the compression steel content, that is the reinforcement that you are providing in the top. Then the second criteria is to increase the concrete compressive strength, and third criteria is to increase the concrete ultimate strain, right? So concrete compressive strength is related to the strength or grade of material that you are going to use, and ultimate concrete strain is related to the large deformation that it can undergo, because if you look at the definition of strain, that is change, it is the ratio of change in length to the original length, right? So in case of ductile detailing or in case of materials which are ductile in nature, large deformation is going to be possible. So when large deformation will be possible, then as a result of this, the delta L, that is the change in length or change in cross section, is going to be of a large amount. And it is, if you compare it with the definition of strain, then change in length or change in cross section is in direct proportion with the formula of the strain. So as a result of that, if the change in length is more, then the value of strain is also going to more. And when the strain is going to be more, then as a result of that, the resistance is also going to increase to a great extent. Right? Now, The next part, which is very important, is the application. That is, we know the concept, we know the importance, we know the performance will be enhanced, everything is okay, but how do we apply in the structure, or which are the different types of structures, or which are the criteria where the application of this ductility is going to be a must. And to help us in this matter, the guidelines are prepared by Indian standard in the form of IS 13920-2016. Right? So each and every country, the Indian standard has this code 13920. The other countries also have specific code for ductile detailing. So all these codes, all these countries are trying to enforce or trying to tell us that in order to enhance the performance of the structure, ductility is very, very important, and ductility is greatly being pushed forward by all the countries. Right? So if we talk about IS 13920, then IS 13920 is giving us a guideline that in which type of seismic zone, which type of building, you have to compulsory consider the application of ductile detailing. That is, if your building is located in zone 3, 4 and 5, then ductile detailing of these buildings is going to be a must. That is, the zones that are of higher seismic zone, that is zone 4, zone 5 is highly seismic prone zone. So you cannot avoid in any kind of structure that is being constructed in seismic zone 4 and 5 has to be compulsory detailed as per the guidelines of IS 13920-2016. Secondly, if your importance factor value is greater than 1, then also it is going to be compulsory that you detail your structure as per the ductile detailing. All these structures that are going to be of importance greater than 1 are, for example, the school building, institutional buildings, government buildings, power plants, nuclear power plants, right? Chimneys, silos, industrial structures, special structures. These all structures are going to have importance factor greater than 1, as we have seen in IS 1893. So all structures having an importance factor greater than 1 have to be designed for ductile detailing. Then if your building is an industrial building and located in zone 3, then also the ductile detailing has to be followed. And if your building is located in zone 3 and if it is having if this total height of the story is greater than 15 meters, then also the building has to be compulsory designed for ductile detailing. Right? So these are very stringent guidelines that are set by IS 13920, and if these guidelines are followed, then the good performance of the building is 100% assured. Right? Now we talk about the ductility criteria. What is the criteria based on which the IS 13920 is promoting the application of ductility? Then it is basically to fall in line with the design philosophy that is promoted by IS 1893. And that design philosophy we have already gone through in the earlier lectures of method of analysis also. But just a quick recap. That is, the IS 1893 is based on 3 basic guidelines. First is that it is talking about the minor earthquake. Second, it is talking about the moderate earthquake, and third, it is talking about the strong earthquake. So when minor earthquake is there, in case of minor earthquake, no damage is expected to the structure, whether it is structural damage or non-structural damage. All types of minor earthquake should be equally resisted by the structure. Then when you come to the moderate earthquake, then in case of moderate earthquake, it is said that non-structural damage is accepted, but structural damage is not accepted. Right? So when non-structural damage is going to be there and only non-structural damage is going to be there and structural damage is not going to be there, then as a result of that we are making sure that the structure will not collapse under the moderate shaking of the earthquake. And lastly, in case of strong earthquake also, it is telling that the catastrophic failure of the structure should be totally avoided. That is, structural damage should be there, the structure damage should be of such extent that it becomes irreparable in nature also. Even then, the catastrophic failure of the structure should not be there. So if you want to ensure that these 3 guidelines of IS 1893 based on with the design philosophy for earthquake resistant structures, earthquake resistant design of structures is worked out, then in that case the design philosophy, this criteria of ductility has to be compulsory be followed. Right? Lastly, before we end today's lecture, we quickly discuss the different factors that will affect the ductility, right? Because we also need to keep in mind the factors that are going to affect the ductility, right? So if we talk about the factors, then basically there are 4 factors. The first factor is the tension steel ratio, right? Second factor is the compression steel ratio. Tension steel ratio is basically your PT, which you are going to provide on the tension phase. Compression steel ratio is your PC, which you are going to provide on the compression phase. Then the shape of the cross section. And lastly, the lateral reinforcement. Lateral reinforcement is basically the transfer reinforcement which you are going to provide, and by means of which you are going to confine the area of cross section. Right? So now these 4 factors Now, if I talk about the first factor, that is the tension steel ratio. So tension steel ratio should always be on the lower side. Why it should be on the lower side? Because if you are going to provide higher amount of steel, then what is going to happen is that under the effect of load, the concrete is going to crush first and the yielding of bar is going to take place later. When concrete is going to crush first, then it is going to be a brittle material. So as a result of that, catastrophic failure of the building will be initiated, catastrophic failure of the member will be initiated, and we will have no sign convention, which the code is not promoting. So as a result of that, we can see that we can say that the tension steel ratio should always be on the lower side. Second is the compression steel ratio. If compression steel ratio is on the higher side, then ductility in the building or ductility in the member will be enhanced, and as a result of that, the catastrophic failure will be avoided. Third is the shape of the cross section. So when you talk about the shape of the cross section, if you have large width available in the flange area, then as a result of that, the depth of the flange beam is going to reduce, and when the depth of the flange beam is reduced, then as a result of that, the ductility in the compression zone will be more, and as a result of that, the damage or collapse of that particular member can be avoided. And last is the provision of lateral reinforcement. Lateral reinforcements are going to help us avoid premature shear failures by confining the zones, right? Confining the concrete cross sections, the shear failures that are going to be there, that can be avoided, and when that will be avoided, then the lateral reinforcement is going to be one of the key features which will help us achieve in ductility. And lastly, we look at the different options which we have in order to increase the ductility. So the first option is, as we have discussed, decrease the tension steel ratio, that is PT should be less. Increase the compression steel ratio, that is PC should be more. Then the compressive strength of the concrete can be increased, that is also one option. Then the concrete ultimate strain can also be increased, that is also another option. And lastly is the increase in the compression flange area, that is increasing the cross sectional area also. So these are all different options that you have that will help us to increase the ductility in the structure. I hope the concept of ductility, its significance, its necessity, and its application as per the codal provision is clear to you. In the next lecture, we will be starting with the application of ductile detailing in flexural members, that is beams and column. Hope you have enjoyed today's lecture. Stay tuned for the further lectures. Thank you.